are at the Garage, a legendary music venue in Islington in London, and I'm sitting here, it's a great pleasure, with Mathew Priest, the drummer from Dodgy.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I think you didn't you do a piece with us up in Scotland?
I think I did. Your memory is better than mine.
We went to Tarnsay. This was with Dodgy Mark II. This is pantomime Dodgy.
Yeah.
This was without Nigel. When we very wrongly decided to limp on after Nigel had left the band, and we took a real stupid trip to Tarnsay because it was where they were doing the Survival, where Ben, what's his face? Ben,
yes, it's all coming back now.
And we went out and we sort of invaded their island.
Yes.
And with bottles of whiskey and horrible times.
You're playing tonight. Tell us basically where Dodgy are as a band at the moment. Obviously, you released an album last...
2012.
2012, not last year, 2012.
Yeah, we released an album called Stand Upright in a Cool Place, which is our first album that we've done as the original lineup since 1996.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah. So what's that? That's 16 years or something silly. So that was interesting, but we'd got back together because we got asked to, and everything had thawed a little bit, and we thought, well, let's see what it's like. It's like when you see an old girlfriend on Facebook. You know what I mean? It's like you want to see if the magic's still there. Because when you create magic with people,
yes,
you know what I mean. It's you find out as you get older in life that it doesn't happen that often.
Well, this is a very interesting issue as men, perhaps in their 40s, realise that life doesn't go on forever, and special encounters don't happen all the time.
No, not at all. And I think that's what we realised, is that, hang on, the three of us together, for whatever reason, the three of us together, we create magic that we think is magic,
yes,
that we love it, and we sort of said, well, let's see if it works again. So we got back together and did the sort of reunion tour, playing all the old hits, but just the way we are, that we if that's all we did, if that was all our raison d'etre, we wouldn't still be together. You know what I mean? It's like sharks. You have to keep swimming. You know what I mean? You have to keep... And we're creative people. And so we realised quite quickly that we wanted to write some more stuff. But we realised that there's going to be so much cynicism out there. And quite rightly, you know what I mean? Because it's just not done. Bands don't get back together and do good albums. They just don't do that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not the done thing. It's like before, the bands never got back together anyway.
Yeah.
But before the Pixies did it and the Stooges did it, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, bands just didn't do that. The Roses would never do it. The Clash didn't do it. It was never considered. But then the kind of Pixies made it cool to get back together. And then what we realised that there was going to be a real problem of convincing people that this new record is actually worth listening to, and it's as good as, or even better than our previous stuff. Mm-hmm. So it had to be extra specially good, and we really worked hard on it. And we worked on the songs.
And how have you found, the fans? Have they been sort of waiting in the wings, for Dodgy to get back together, and they still as enthusiastic and as responsive as they were?
Well, the thing is, when we were around the first time, there was none of this thing called the Tinterweb. You know what I mean? There wasn't the internet, and it's bizarre.
There wasn't the mobile phone, I don't think.
No, I mean,
or the computer.
Yeah, by 1999, everyone was webbed up. But so therefore, before that, during our time in the 90s, if we sent out a newsletter, it was physically a newsletter that we'd put in the post and send to people, and that's the thing that's amazing. We have such a relationship now online with fans, right, that we obviously never had before.
Yeah, that said, but back in those days before the internet, people couldn't sort of download albums for free. So you really did you were part of a sort of golden age when bands were still making decent money by selling albums. I know they weren't so much vinyl then, moving on to CD and all that kind of stuff. But nowadays it seems it's quite difficult to make a living from being in a band.
I don't think it's necessarily the downloading for free that has changed, because people always, where I used to live, one person would buy an album, and then
Yeah.
record it for his 12 mates. You know what I mean? You know, oh, have you got the new? You know, have you got the new Cult album? Do us a copy.
The Cult.
You know, do us a copy, and it would go around the school, and he would do a copy for all of his mates on tape.
Right.
So I don't think necessarily that's the problem.
Okay.
What's happened is that there's been a real cultural shift where music is not as culturally important as it used to be. You know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, kids would be into music, they'd be buying albums, they'd go out, and that's what they'd do. Nowadays, kids are kind of into music, but next to Assassin's Creed or Grand Theft Auto,
Yes.
forget it, mate. You know
Well,
what
so
I mean?
that's an interesting point,
You ask
actually.
a 14-year-old boy, what would he rather do? Listen to an album or play Grand Theft Auto? I mean, if I was 14, I'd want to play Grand Theft Auto. Have you seen it? It's amazing. I don't now because I'm 43.
It's an interesting point. For me, music is more important than it's ever been, actually, as I get older. But that's because I'm an old git, and you know,
There you go.
I like the old stuff, and I never got into computer games.
Same as me.
On the subject of drumming, has your drum kit enlarged and become sort of the size of
Saucy.
you know, Rush were always famous for having a massive drum kit. I mean, do you tinker around in cowbells and all that stuff?
Oh God, no. It's the more things you've got, the more things you've got to hit. You know what I mean? So you tend to just try to keep it down, and also as well nowadays we tend to transport ourselves and have to set things up ourselves. So it's less to set up, so less the better, really. You know, and
Right.
also if you can't play on a bass drum, a snare drum, and a hi hat, then you can't really play. You know what I mean? You don't need a massive kit. I mean, fair enough if you've got a small penis, then you need a big kit. You know what I mean?
I've got a really big kit at home. I bought it off Phil Collins, who can no longer drum, unfortunately.
He's writing with Adele, isn't he?
Is
writing,
he?
Yeah. Adele.
Kidding me?
No. I thought that was quite a smart move by Adele.
What?
But
It's
she's
not a smart move by Phil Collins.
Well, no. She contacted him. She contacted him and said, I want you to have...
Well, I've got to be honest, I've been recently listening to Face Value and some
Good
of his
album.
great album.
Yeah,
You
good
know,
album.
written from the heartache of a broken relationship,
Yeah.
which is the basis of any great album.
Yeah, that was great. That is a really, really good album. It is. I mean, it's the same time as Peter Gabriel's first few albums as well, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, with Salisbury Hill and Moribund the Burgermeister and Waiting
Whoa,
for the Flood and,
that's
and,
it.
and
There you
things
go.
like that.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who are your drumming idols, as it were? I mean, many people mention Phil Collins as perhaps, you know, they might not approve of his private life or perhaps his bands that he's been in, but they do acknowledge that he's an excellent drummer.
I think it's his politics that people don't necessarily...
Yes, and his politics, his tax evasion and
along with,
things.
Yeah. It's always been Keith Moon, really.
Right.
Keith Moon and the obvious ones: Keith Moon, John Bonham, Ringo. You know, Kenny Jones from the Faces.
Yes.
Mitch Mitchell from Hendrix, Mick Fleetwood. Just around
Right.
that sort of late 60s, early 70s. A lot of Motown stuff. You know, the Funk Brothers guys. Yeah, you know, it's obvious. You listen to the way I play. It's pretty obvious who I like.
Any King Crimson in there? No. Okay, we'll move on.
I've been listening to Epitaph, which is,
I've been listening to Epitaph. I recently bought In the Court of the Crimson King, and I bought In the Wake of Poseidon, which is their second album, on which Epitaph is.
Right, yeah.
What a... And I've noticed that Marillion's first album and their 90-minute epic Grendel is very much Epitaph based. You can see certain bands nicking from... I mean, King Crimson,
Well,
I think they were superb, and they were very experimental.
well, they were the first prog rock band, essentially.
Yes.
They sort of laid down the blueprint, essentially.
Absolutely.
A lot of prog rock bands cite King Crimson as the first one, essentially. You know.
And have you ever been tempted to do have you ever done a drum solo with Dodgy?
I hate drum solos.
Oh, come on.
No, I do.
John Bonham used to like
No,
one.
because John Bonham's good.
You're good.
You know what I mean? No. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I'm not as good as Bonham or Mooney. You know what I mean? And when they did a solo, it was outstanding. So if I did a solo, it's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? If you want to go listen to a solo, go listen to Moby Dick. Don't
Right.
go to a Dodgy gig to listen to a solo. We're a song-based band, you know. So.
Speaking of Keith Moon, do you know that he died in Harry Nilsson's flat, where Mama Cass also died? And this was this is in Green Park near Mayfair. Harry Nilsson obviously bought a flat, and various musicians would stay there. And Keith Moon was given this drug by his doctor, which to help him give up booze, but it was a hugely toxic pill.
And he took an overdose of it, didn't he?
Yeah, you only had to take 6 to die.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When everyone says, where do rock stars go to die? That's where they go to die.
Mayfair.
That's
Green
it.
Park.
Yeah.
They get off
that
the
flat.
tube.
That's it.
That flat, Harry Nilsson's flat.
That's where they go to
Mama
die.
Cass supposedly choked on a bloody ham sandwich, but that was rubbish. I think she was just overweight and her heart gave out.
Yeah, bless her. She was a good sort.
She was great. I've been getting into Mamas and Papas
but
recently.
it's in a way like, you know, where you get elephants' graveyards where elephants go to die.
Yes.
It's like that. It's like rock stars go there to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, rock stars go, I'm not long for this world. And you'll see them on the tube to Green Park, go to that
Usually
flat.
rock stars decide they're not long for this world because they usually choose to take the exit rather than the exit choosing to take them. Like, I mean, I was, you know, I live in Camden. I was listening to a bit of Amy Winehouse recently and reflecting that it was only 2 years since her death, and the sort of the major shockwaves that caused in Camden when it kind of came home that you could be hedonistic, but you know you might actually want to kill yourself.
You know what? You know, I might upset a few people here, but you know, there were warnings on the packet. You know what I mean? She knew what she was doing. You know what I mean? It's not like she didn't know if she was going to do crack and going to do smack to that kind of excess, and that drink to that excess. You know what I mean? And I love what Amy Winehouse. You know, she did some great records, but. It's a real loss. No, it's not. I don't think she would have made another great album because she was so messed up anyway. And I think she knew what she was doing. She, you know, essentially she killed herself.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you.
I hate people sort of mourning. Fair enough, her family, and friends, but Amy and bless her. And it's like, no, she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she, you know, and I've said this before because I interviewed both Amy and Blake. Previously, but I think Amy effectively committed suicide, and she knew exactly what she was doing. I spoke to both Pete Doherty and her lover Christian Marr and Blake about this, and they never saw her eat anything. She only ate slush puppies and milkshakes, and you know, and if you're basically about 6 stone and as skinny as a rake, I can drink just about a bottle of vodka in a night, but it makes me feel bad. But, you know, something like Amy, if I start early, about 5 o'clock, go on till 3, I can probably do a bottle of vodka and not die. But Amy was only 6 stone. She's probably half my weight.
No, exactly. So at the end of the day, these people know what they're doing, you know. It's, you know, God, I've been around it, you know what I mean?
He has.
I was around it.
Mathew Priest has been around. Let me confirm that. He is Mr. Rock and Roll. He's the groupies, you wouldn't.
My missus might be watching this. You know,
but this is before your missus. You're allowed to have had a history.
No. It's, and I just think, you know, but it happens to anyone. Plumbers, you know, I know plumbers that get screwed up on drugs and drink and stuff. It happens to anyone. You know what I mean? The problem is with bands is it's so readily available, and loads of people give it to you.
Are there any classic Dodgy songs? I mean, are you going to play "I Am the Grassman" or "Grassman"?
We're not going to play Grassman.
What?
We're not going to play Grassman.
In that case, I'm off home. I'm getting the bus.
We're not going to play Grassman.
Well, it's one of the classic songs. I loved it
because.
Do you remember that it had some grass seeds in?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that.
We sent out some hemp seeds.
Hemp seeds
with the album. Yeah. We don't. But it's the 20th anniversary of Homegrown this year.
Right.
So we're going to be doing some Homegrown shows later in the year. But also we've just signed to Cherry Red Records.
Who I just bought Luke Haynes' new album, Rock and Roll Animals, which is superb, by the way. But Cherry Red, I've got a lot of time for them. They're a good unit.
Exactly. So we just signed to them, and we start next weekend. We start recording the new album. So
great.
Watch this space, dodgyology.com.
Where are you going to record it?
Up in Pershore, where Nigel lives.
Okay. In where?
Pershore, which is near the Malverns.
Right, okay, I got
Hills,
you. Okay,
that's on the north end of the what's that place called? Where all the posh people live.
Right.
Evesham and all that.
I got you. Okay. Well, I mean, you know, that sounds very exciting. Good luck with that, and good
Thank
luck
you.
tonight with the gig.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Mathew Priest, it's been a great pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers, Piers. Thank you.